if we do not obey in the lesser moments, why would God trust us with the greater moments? Some of us are aiming for the mountain peak and we haven't even stepped over the pebble which is in front of us. Some of us are desiring to hear him prophetically and we won't even open our Bibles every day. If we listen out and if we walk in the secret place, then God will lift us up and use us powerfully in the public place. And so, listen out, walk in the lesser things, and God will bring victory and power in the greater things. And this principle is everywhere. And Jesus speaks of it himself in Luke 16, verse 10, where he says, it's just the next one on. Luke 16, verse 10, one who is faithful in very little is also faithful in much. And so God gives you little, and you're faithful in it, and then God provides you with much. Because you'll be faithful in that. You've proven yourself. He trusts you with more, because you've proven yourself in little. There is no such thing as a hero of faith who has burst on the scene. They have all learned to live a life with the King of Kings before they could ever stand in front of the King of Israel. They've all learned the secret place, the hidden life, before they were taken up into the public life. And so a life of obedience will always lead us to a life of usefulness and a life of victory over the enemy. Elijah's life shows us this. Because Elijah, he cultivated this obedience. This little obedience. This communication-based relationship with our God in the secret place. Showing us to listen out, to walk in. Obedience is the greatest weapon against the enemy. Not only in the fight, but also in avoiding the fight. Not only in the fight, but also avoiding the fight. Because obedience keeps us one step ahead of the enemy. Obedience keeps us one step ahead of the enemy. And if by the end of this morning, church, you're encouraged to live this life of obedience, then I do need to warn you. As soon as you start to live this life of obedience, as soon as you start to live in a way where you're listening out and walking in, you will become a prime target of the enemy. You will become a prime target of the enemy. Those Christians who worship God on a Sunday but then don't worship him any other day of the week, Satan doesn't really care. Satan doesn't look at you and think, oh, they're a threat. Not at all. Satan doesn't care that much about the Christian who doesn't live a life of obedience. But what he does care about, what he is afraid of, what he is scared of, is a spirit-filled, obedient Christian who listens out and walks in. Luke 4, verse 1 and 2. And Jesus, after he is baptized in water and anointed with the Holy Spirit, it then says, and Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned and was led by the Spirit. So he's hearing him, he's feeling his leading, and he obeys. He listens out, he walks in, full of the Spirit, was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, and for 40 days he was what? Tempted by the enemy. He was attacked. He was a target. Why? Because he's obedient. Because he's following God wholeheartedly. And so he becomes a prime target of the enemy. But I need to admit something to you. This is where I find Satan to be an absolute fool. Because what he doesn't realize is that as he attacks us, that encourages us. Because it means if Satan is attacking me, then I'm living the way I should be living. I'm listening out and I'm walking in. And God has a plan for me and a great use for me. So if Satan is coming at me, then I am built up. I'm encouraged. Because if Satan is on the move, it means that our God was on the move first. And I'm encouraged when Satan comes to bring me down, because it means that God is lifting me up. But being a target is not the only consequence of living this obedient life. Because as the enemy comes for us, our God protects us. Our God protects us. Elijah experienced this in his own life. He stood up, he spoke to Ahab, he declared no rain, and then God hides him away. God hides him away. 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 2 and then 5. And the word of the Lord came to him. He's hearing, he's listening out. So he went and did according to the word of the Lord. He's obedient. And so he's been put up on this big stage in front of all of Israel, speaks this incredible prophecy, and then he hears again and he acts again, and God takes him away and hides him away. Hides him away. Because what God says is, go and drink of the brook of Cherith, and ravens will feed you. Now that sounds odd, isn't it? And it was. But Elijah heard him, and he obeyed, and he gets hidden away. And Elijah is hidden away in various areas for 3 years. He's spoken this great thing. Everyone now knows him, and then he's taken away. And for 3 years, he's hidden away. And then on the 3rd year, the Lord speaks to him again, tells him, arise and go and speak to Ahab. Tell him that rain is on its way. And so he arises. And as he arises and as he goes and as he walks, he meets a man, Obadiah, the servant of Ahab. And it's in chapter 18, verse 10. Chapter 18, verse 10. And Obadiah says this. Elijah's been hidden away for 3 years. He doesn't know anything. As Lord your God lives, Elijah, there is no nation or kingdom where my Lord has not sent to seek you out. And when they would say, he is not here, he would take an oath that they had not found you. Elijah was being sought out by the enemy. The enemy had sent armies and people and soldiers to every corner of Israel to seek him out, to find him, to arrest him, to execute him. And this is the exact revelation Elijah needed to increase his faith. Because little did you know, Elijah, that as you obeyed, as you listened out, and as you walked in, you were kept one step ahead of the enemy. The command sounded odd. Fed bread by ravens. But Elijah trusted, and he obeyed, and he was protected.